During the last administration in the US, then-President Donald Trump placed heavy sanctions on Huawei and prevented American companies from buying chips from the state-affiliated tech giant. While the sanctions really cut deep into Huawei's finances and impeded growth over the last few years, Apple and several other US companies will still have to pay Huawei for 5G patents. Does this mean that the Trump sanctions did not work, or was it an exercise in futility? In this video, we will explain in detail why Apple will still have to pay Huawei for 5G patents and what this development portends for the future. According to the chief legal officer of Huawei, Liuping, mobile phone companies like Apple and Samsung will have to pay Huawei a substantial access fee for their smartphones to access the tech giant's 5G wireless network. This access fee represents a very lucrative source of revenue generation for Huawei. According to Mr. Song, the charges will cover a period of 2019 to 2021 and will raise a revenue of up to $1.3 billion. This fee is based on patent and licensing fees. Huawei is one of the biggest mobile technology companies in the world, with an extensive 5G network. Despite the new announcement, the firm has not revealed just how much of its revenues will come from its 5G network, neither have they revealed exactly how much will be raised in the process. However, Huawei announced that it will charge lower rates than what international rivals like Nokia Oij, Qualcomm and Ericsson AB charge. There are also plans by Huawei to place a cap on royalty fees at a rate of $2.50 per smartphone sold to mobile phone users. This $2.50 royalty fee represents a drastically lower rate compared to what companies like Qualcomm charge, which is usually between $13 to $20 per mobile phone. These new rates released by Huawei will have a far-reaching impact on the 5G industry for several reasons. One of the main impacts will be on pricing. For instance, Qualcomm is the current provider of 5G modems for Apple's iPhone. If Huawei charges less than 20% of what Apple pays to Qualcomm, this move alone may force Qualcomm to reduce their rates, or Apple may decide to look for another supplier. It is also believed that Apple is already in the process of developing its own 5G modems for future iPhones, including an iPad Pro. No one knows for now what Apple's plan of action will be. What we do know is that Apple has flirted with the idea of launching its own 5G technology for some time now. It also remains unknown whether they plan to renegotiate a new deal with Qualcomm when the current deal expires. But for now, there are ongoing patent disputes between operators in the industry. So there will be several litigations over the issue which may likely affect Huawei. The last US administration did not look at the Chinese tech giant in a favorable light, and Huawei was viewed as the global enforcement arm of the Communist Party of China. The Trump administration argued that Huawei kits sold to smartphone companies will be used to transmit the data of private phone users back to Beijing. To this end, heavy sanctions were placed on Huawei in the last 15 months of the Trump administration. Furthermore, US companies were banned from buying chips from China. This situation degenerated into a row that lasted until the end of the administration. With the new administration, majority of the sanctions still remain, but some experts expect President Biden to reduce some of the sanctions if certain concessions are met by Huawei. Despite the current sanctions and the threat of more sanctions, it appears that the decision-makers at Huawei remain resolute. Apple is not the only company Huawei is planning to demand royalties from. Samsung Electronics will also have to pay fees to use its 5G systems. This move is in full gear despite the US's intention to block its access to the supply chain. Huawei wants a seat at the table because it has the network and capacity to determine the direction of the global technology industry for years to come. With the rise in the number and use of smartphones, robotics, AI, EV cars and smart devices, the demand for 5G technology will continue to skyrocket. Companies with 5G assets will exert a lot of influence on the world economy. They also stand to earn a fortune in the process. It is no longer news that Huawei possess 5G capabilities. What may be news for some is that the company has a treasure trove of 5G assets that companies across diverse industries will come to rely on in the next decade and beyond. The potential for profit and influence has sparked a 5G race, but beyond that, there is currently a dispute between firms as to how profits ought to be shared. The first worldwide dispute over technology is the one we are currently witnessing over 5G smartphones. The downside to all this for Huawei is that it has only just become a global player in the industry not too long ago. Besides being a late entrant, the crippling sanctions by the US is threatening to destroy and limit its influence outside of Southeast Asia. There are millions of iPhone users in Asia, particularly in the Far East, where Huawei maintains a strong sphere of influence. If Apple goes ahead to develop its own 5G network, this may bring both giants closer to a collision course. For example, we have witnessed the first of such clashes involving Apple and Qualcomm, its 5G kit supplier. Qualcomm charged Apple $7.50 for every iPhone sold. Apple considered the price to be too steep. Qualcomm, on the other hand, argued that $7.50 was a small price to pay for such an integral technology. This disagreement over pricing remains unresolved. Huawei has stressed that US sanctions should not affect its ability to enter into cross-license agreements with US companies because the patents they offer are publicly available. If Apple ditches Qualcomm and enters into an agreement with Huawei, this may boost its balance sheet and be a win-win situation for both parties, as long as Huawei keeps its royalty rates low. However, if Apple decides to launch its own 5G systems, this may lead to disputes with Huawei, who already has a strong 5G presence in the Far East. This clash is possible in light of the argument many operators are currently embroiled in. Who gets what and how much does an operator get for running a 5G network? Currently, law courts and world governments do not know how to value patents on essential technology and whether the patent owner has the right to limit the use of its invention by other users. For all we know, Apple has the financial and technological capability to launch its own 5G network. If decision makers will still go along with this remains to be seen though, but the struggle is real. Wireless developers like Qualcomm, Motorola and Nokia have held sway in the industry due to their pioneer status. Huawei emerged not too long after. Recently, firms like Microsoft have indicated a willingness to go into 5G development too. Apple is discussing the idea at the board level as well. The clash between the old and the new entrants may escalate faster than we think. If Huawei becomes involved as we expect, no one can tell how the story will end. Already, market forecasts indicate that 5G devices are expected to reach an all-time sales growth of $668 billion annually by 2026. In contrast, the market for 5G smartphones was valued at just $5.5 billion only last year. So you see why technology firms are desperate to have a share of the market before it reaches a saturation point. With the recent announcement by Huawei, Apple has one of two options: to either ditch Qualcomm and use the cheaper service offered by Huawei, or to ditch third-party 5G system providers altogether and instead develop its own 5G capabilities. Do you think Apple will prefer its own technology over third-party providers like Huawei and Qualcomm in the long term? Let us know what you think by dropping a comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos. Thanks for watching.